Here to react, Fox News contributor and host of Get Tammy Bruce on Fox Nation, Tammy Bruce.
Good morning. Hi, you guys. Look great.
So, explain the story.
Well, look, this is what's been kind of fascinating. It's been happening for a while. Remember, Joe Biden's team had warned everyone to stop booking Rudy Giuliani. In this case, a number of networks have decided they've refused to air a Trump campaign commercial that criticizes Joe Biden, which is what campaigns are for, is that we have a discussion about what people are doing, what they've accomplished, what they haven't,
Is the ad inaccurate?
Well, it's public information. It's facts that we already have out. Of course, it's a campaign ad, so it's critical. It doesn't present it in a neutral way, but it's meant to give you some information about the nature of what Joe Biden and his son Hunter have been doing, and that's, I think, fair game in a campaign, in a dynamic when you're a politician. And then there's, of course, also what we've learned with the New York Times. They printed an op-ed piece by Peter Schweizer that was critical of not just Joe Biden, but also a little bit critical of Mitch McConnell as well. And the Joe Biden team, his campaign publicly excoriated the New York Times for doing this, for effectively going out of their lane, that they shouldn't have done it. This is what totalitarian societies do to state media, that there seems to be an expectation by certainly the Biden campaign that you do not criticize him.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's the craziest thing ever. He's yelling at people. They're demanding that people stop booking Rudy Giuliani. They're upset at the New York Times for publishing this editorial from Peter Schweizer that was critical of him and his son, as well as Mitch McConnell. Here's an excerpt. It says, what Hunter did was legal, and that's the problem. Mm-hmm. We need a Washington Corrupt Practices Act to stop political families from self-dealing.
Yeah, this is not a one-off with the Bidens. This just scratches the surface. These are things that are of interest to all of us, regardless of our political party, about a system that is likely corrupt, and yet it reinforces that when the Biden team feels comfortable publicly telling media, ordering them what to do and not to do, gives one the impression that they're used to that happening. They're used to controlling what media does.
Well, the Biden campaign did put out a statement regarding the New York Times and this op-ed by Peter Schweizer. It said, despite voluminous work done by the independent press and fact checkers, including some by the Times, to refute the heinous conspiracy theory that Donald Trump attempted to bully Ukraine into propping him up for him, the paper ran an op-ed by none other than Peter Schweizer, making more malicious claims about the Biden family. So they're saying, not true, shouldn't have run it.
Well, look, he noted that they go through not just their own fact checks, but the New York Times goes through and does fact checking as well, every single word. And so while you might disagree or you might not like an end result, at least for us, and of course there's all kinds of information out there, it's more information with which you can use to come to your own conclusions.
Joe Biden was on camera admitting to the quid pro quo.
Yes, and so it's not just that action, it's the nature of how much money was being doled out, Hunter Biden's background, and this larger context of sitting on boards and making $50,000 a month.
Just watch for the debates, because Amy Klobuchar says my 24-year-old would never sit on the board of an international company. Cory Booker says it doesn't mean it's right. So his Democratic opponents are going to join in, unless they don't want to win.
On its face, it looks awful because it is awful, and yet this seems to be a system that politicians, when we wonder how are they all getting to be
rich,
multimillionaires and rich in public freaking service, this might be part of that answer, and it's unacceptable, and we need to have that conversation.
Tammy Bruce, everybody.